and welcome. It's the very end of October and here in the UK the clocks will be changing in a couple of days, which will really throw us into those dark winter nights. Having had our usual several days of showery rain and howling gales, today it is actually a beautiful morning out in the garden. The sun is shining and warming up the temperatures, and although it's been getting cold, we haven't had a frost yet, and actually I wouldn't expect one here till Christmas time. Today, about a month later than ideally planned, I'm going to be planting my garlic for next year. Now, normally I would plant it at the beginning of October rather than the end of October, but everything seems to have been all behind all year this year. I've never quite caught up with myself. I'm planning to put it in this bed I'm sitting on the edge of, so I'm going to rip up all these nasturtiums, give it a quick sprinkle with some blood, fish and bone, and probably a top dressing with an extra wheelbarrow full of compost. Now the garlic I'm putting in today is a little bit special for me. Usually I will just buy a couple of cloves of garlic from the supermarket, or I'll have a couple of bulbs of garlic from the supermarket, or I'll have a bulb of garlic from last year's growing that I haven't used up. But this year I have treated myself to two extra different varieties. I have some elephant garlic, and I've treated myself to 5 cloves of that. Let's just get one of them. So there's an idea of how big they are. That's one individual clove from the elephant garlic. I've only got 5 of them because they're £1 a clove, but that should get me started with elephant garlic. Next year I can keep one of my bulbs and replant that. Fingers crossed. I've also got some solo garlic, another variety I haven't grown before. These are not quite as expensive, but each little oniony shaped bulb has that same wonderful garlic flavour without all the different little cloves to separate and peel before you crush it. So I've not grown solo garlic before either. I'll be interested to see how large these get. I don't know if they're going to grow little clusters of bulbs at this sort of size, or quite how they will mature. I came across them purely by accident when I was searching around the garden websites to buy my elephant garlic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 10 of these to plant and 5 of these.
Okay, let's get this bed cleared, ready to plant that garlic. I'm going to start by shifting this pile of plastic compost bin side panels. Dump them on another empty bed for the moment. Oh, I'm all tangled up in this bit of wire mesh. There's a second. There we go, that's better.
I did.
This piece of mesh was originally laid on the bed to protect the seedlings from the wildlife. It's coming in very useful. A bit of a heave and a tug and it rips out all of the nasturtiums. Fantastic! Quickest weeding ever.
I'm going to keep these nasturtium plants and dump them out on my new garden beds, with hopefully the seeds they're still hanging on to might germinate there next year.
That clattering noise is all the seeds dropping into the wheelbarrow. Although this next bit's been speeded up, it really didn't take long to clear that mesh of all those bits of plant. Now to clear the last few in the raised bed. I'm picking up and rescuing extra seeds as well. They're scattered all over the surface of the soil. I just can't resist collecting them. There's so many though, I couldn't possibly get them all.
So many nasturtium seeds. Some of these are going to germinate next year. These I've already gathered up. I'll be throwing out on my new flowering garden beds in the hope that some of them will germinate there. I think once you've got nasturtiums, you've got them forever. The joy of no-dig raised bed gardening. Yes, you still get weeds, but they are so easy to pull out. So this is rubbish. Bit of grass. Go.
Decided to give it a quick rake over just to make things look nice and tidy.
I'm just scattering a couple of handfuls of blood fish and bone onto the surface. Oh, doesn't do much good on my little wall. Push that in. So although the compost in this bed is actually looking very nice and dark and rich and lovely, and I've just given it a top dressing of blood fish and bone, I'm still going to add a top dressing with a bag of my homemade compost as well. Make sure it gets well fed, hopefully grow those garlic bulbs nice and big. That little plant, out you come. Yay.
Shaking out every last crumb possible. Oh, this is beautiful. I put it in bags earlier in the year. I needed the empty compost bin to start filling again, but wasn't yet in need of compost.
Solar garlic there, elephant garlic here. We've got 5 of them, so we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I've got a little tiny thin one. Where will I put it? Well, I'll do 6 then. I have a little tiny thin one. So here's the size of the bulbs again. I've got one little tiny thin slither. So I'll plant this as well, which will give me 6.
A free bonus slither because I didn't pay any extra for that one. I'm sure it'll still grow, maybe not quite as big as the others, but it's a start. Now for the solo garlic. Planting in exactly the same way. Dig a little hole and pop them in. This white tube of piping will do to mark the end of my planting space. I have a little bit of room left. I'll be able to put my standard garlic in that spot.
Put my netting back on top, just to help deter the wildlife.
Also decided to put one of those compost bin sides back as well, just to cover this bit of soil until I'm ready to plant into it.
So that's me, elephant garlic and solo garlic planted. There's a space at the end of this bed. In the next couple of days I can put some ordinary garlic in. Now I've spaced them out very far apart. They've got about a foot in all directions around them, which is much more than I think they're going to need. It'll make weeding them easy though next year with all that space around each individual bulb. Now while it's the end of October, I've got a last few couple of squash to harvest. Beautiful red leaves on this blueberry bush, a gorgeous splash of autumn colour.
And strangely enough, this is an apple tree with blossom on it. This is the last flower left. About a week ago, it was covered with lots of them. Here's the remains of where the flowers had been. I have had several figs from this young fig tree this year. Very nice they were too. And I know it has little tiny baby pea-sized figs in the autumn that mature into next year's fruits. But these fig fruits are quite a bit bigger than that, and I really don't think they'll make it through the winter. If they do, I'm going to get a very good crop next year. There's lots of them all over the tree, just bigger than I would expect or want them to be at this time of year.
Well, the brassica nets are doing their job and keeping the slugs out, even though this one's trying to eat a dandelion through the net. I don't know if we can see it through all the rain. There's a kohlrabi in here that's shaping up nicely. It's possibly about the size of my clenched fist. Here's another kohlrabi. I think, if I remember rightly, this is meant to be a giant kohlrabi.
Not a giant yet.
So it's starting to form a bit of a bulby shape at the bottom. Nice, and another one in there. Lovely.
Now let's go and harvest the last of the squashies.
So they're not quite ripe enough yet. I'd like this stem here to be much browner than it is. But I'm going to harvest them now and clear the patch. See if I can finish ripening these indoors. A section of the pumpkin patch is still looking very green. Those funny butternut coloured squash that I have growing from a cross-pollinated seed. I'm going to harvest the last of them today, ready or not, and see if they'll finish ripening off indoors. Definitely not quite ready. Give it a month sitting on the window ledge and hopefully it'll be ready to eat. There we go. Although I've picked this one, it's still very green on this side, and it's got this weird splitting happening at the bottom. So I'm just going to put this one straight into the compost. I have enough. I don't need to be struggling to rescue imperfect fruits at the moment. 5 butternutty kind of squash harvested, along with 2 extra delicatas that were looking quite good. I think I've got 2 of those funny butternuts already in the house. These are now peachy beigey enough, they should ripen up given time.
Well, that's it from the garden today. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.